Ryan. I really appreciate it. All right, so boom, got that going. Nice little cup of water. I'll leave this down here. I don't really need it too much. All right, so as you were saying, I tend to kind of do a bunch of random stuff. I'm all over the place. Well, actually, first, let's just pray really quickly. Thank you, God, for this amazing church. This is an amazing church. I'm so honored to be a part of it. I'm so honored to be able to have grown so much since I've been here. And thank you for a series that challenges us. This series has been challenging us to face the things that are attacking our lives and face them head on and without fear. Amen. I also like to just thank Pastor Chuck for even asking me to speak here. And thank you guys for being here when your senior pastor's not even here. I really appreciate that because a lot of you guys don't even know me. So, yeah, I don't speak very often, and I tend to prefer it that way. Fun fact about me, even though I do a lot of stuff that happens to be on stage because I play music, I'm very, very introverted. So I like being behind the scenes and not being seen. Like if I could just be wearing an all-black cloak and you don't really see my face at all, I'd be way happier that way. But I truly believe that this week specifically, I'm the man for the job. I feel like I definitely have something to bring to the table, something to offer that's a little bit unique. So, hi, my name's Hashim, and that means, I think it's important to say that because it means destroyer of evil. You can fact check me on that. You can check your phone, Google, or whatever. It means destroyer of evil. It's a really cool name, and I feel like it's very ironic given the context of this specific series, because right now we're attacking these enemies, we're confronting these villains, these evil things, these dark things in the world, and personally, I've had to wrestle with my name for a long time, just trying to figure out what that really means to me, because as we all know, we don't really get to choose our names for the most part, besides some of those people in Hollywood who let their children choose their names, like Bubblegum or something, I don't know. But I didn't get to choose my name. My name was given to me by my father. And it's a heavier name than I guess I expected it to be growing up. It kind of sounds cool, it's whatever. But as I got older and I started just to really sink into the meaning of that, I was like, wow, God, what do I do with this? But beyond that, I'm a 26-year-old man with no kids, and I have no children, so I guess I have no problems. I moved to Draft from Baltimore, Maryland. That's where I was born. I was born in Johns Hopkins Hospital. I moved to Draft from Baltimore, Maryland about 3 years ago because God said so. I was in this weird transitionary period in my life, and I knew that I was supposed to do something new with my life. And I was like, all right, God, so where do I go? So the other option was Detroit, Michigan, which leads me to believe that all of you are pretty important. Because I spent so much of my life, especially my adult life, living in inner cities and doing inner city missions, just different things than Augusta County. And then God's like, actually, let's switch it up. Let's stir the pot a little. Let's see how you feel in Farmtown. I'm like, let's go. Let's do this. And don't hate small towns. Don't hate on it. Don't hate on the fact that you're living in a small town, that you're from a small town. Embrace that. Embrace the benefits of small town living. Embrace the fact that we live in close community. That when you look across, you see your neighbor. Because when you're in the city, you might have house on top of house on top of house. But when you walk out the door, your head's down, you have your sunglasses on, you're too cool for school, and you're not really paying attention to anybody around you. Honestly, in a weird way, because of how close you are in cities, you're more alone and further apart because of it. You end up being a lot more intentional about your relationships and your family and your friends when you live about an acre apart or 10 acres apart or across the way. You just tend to be way more intentional, and you end up having closer family community, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So definitely don't knock that. Don't ever knock that. So I do a lot of stuff with youth kids, and they're always like, man, I can't wait to get up out of here, get out to the real life, go to JMU in Harrisonburg, maybe go. I'm like, man, you calm down and enjoy your time with your family. Enjoy living in this tight community. So because of all these things that make up the body that is Hashim, the person that is Hashim, I bring a completely different perspective than all the other regular speakers here, all the people that you've heard throughout the time that you've been here, whether it's been 15, 17, 2 years. You don't see me very often, but I bring a different perspective because we have a wide variety of mothers and husbands and wives and elders who speak up here, and I'm none of those things. But I am probably the first legitimate nerd who's spoken during this series thus far. And that sounds like a brag. It really does sound like a brag. It sounds like, oh man, I'm the nerdiest guy. Look how cool I am. But I've honestly spent way too much time studying superheroes and comic books. I guess it's about the same amount of time that any of you might have spent studying football or the NBA draft. Like, about equal. So this brings us now to 1963's The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 13, The Origin of Mysterio, by the late Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. I know we have a cover of it, maybe, depending on if the slide's working. Might not be. That's okay. It's a cover of this really awesome comic book from the 1960s, and it's a really, really good one. All right, so let me start talking about Quentin Beck. So Quentin Beck, he is this man named Mysterio. And just to give context, like there's a new Spider-Man movie coming out, and they have a Mysterio, but it's not really the same Mysterio. He's kind of a weird Marvel Cinematic Universe Mysterio that's, whatever. It's not the same one that I know. So I'm gonna tell you about the one that I know. This Mysterio is Quentin Beck, a disgruntled Hollywood worker who didn't get enough recognition in the film industry, so that he thought he deserved. He didn't get enough recognition. He felt that he was undervalued in the film industry. So out of anger and frustration, he did what any disgruntled Hollywood worker would want to do. He decides to use his knowledge of physics, chemistry, and special effects to frame Spider-Man and defeat and vilify this man named Spider-Man and claim the new spot as the national hero. Like, this is the natural occurrence. Like, if you're upset at your job, you're like, you know what? I'm going to destroy a superhero and then become the new superhero. That's what I'm going to do with my life. And that makes sense. That's what Quentin Beck decided to do. So just to zoom through this whole storyline of Quentin Beck and Mysterio, he dresses up as Spidey and publicly commits crimes as him to make the city think that he's gone rogue. And there's this scene in the comic where you see Spider-Man, like old 1963 Spider-Man, where it's like the cool outlines and everything and all the crazy colors like shooting around. He like has a bag of money just doing one of these. And she's like, I'm getting away with the money. And everybody's like, oh no, Spider-Man's committing crimes. What is going on? Who is this person now? So now once the news makes it back to Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man, for all the people who aren't as nerdy as I am, who study Spider-Man, yeah, like stay in school, kids. He becomes confused about his identity. He's confused that he may have developed some sort of split personality disorder where when he falls asleep, does a bunch of crimes as Spider-Man, because as you guys know, when you live a double life, you start to, your psyche tends to fray. If the way you live in church and the way you live outside of church is different, then those things start to like come apart and they start to shred at its ends, and you don't really know who you are anymore. And that's where he was thinking, because he's Spider-Man, so he can't be Spider-Man everywhere because it's unsafe for his family if he says, oh, I'm Peter Parker and I'm Spider-Man. Now his family's attacked, his friends are attacked, his community is attacked. So now he's thinking, oh man, maybe I am doing these things. Maybe my Spider-Man persona is finally taken over and I don't really know what's going on. And during this confusion, Mysterio, he decides he's going to publicly challenge Spider-Man to a rigged fight on top of a bridge in Queens, New York. Or was it Manhattan? Somewhere in New York. He decided to get on top of a bridge and fight him. And without getting touched, he fulfills his plan. And he claims his spot as the new hero of New York. Okay, I just want to recap all of that. It just happened. You know this guy, Quentin Beck, and he's obviously the evil person in this story. He's the bad guy. And I think a lot of his actions and a lot of the way he thinks definitely has like some parallels to who the evil one is in our spiritual life. Where Lucifer, I'm not sure how many of you know, he was cast out of heaven he was the angel of light. He was the angel who was in charge of worship. And at one point he thought, man, why are we worshiping this God guy? They should be worshiping me. I have everything he has. I should be getting way more recognition. So I hope you're seeing the parallel. And then out of his anger and frustration, he decides, you know what? I'm going to become him. And he gets cast out. So I hope you're seeing the parallels up to this point. And he tries to imitate him in every kind of way. And as he's imitating him, we can fall into this confusion. We can fall into a place where we don't know who we are anymore. We're trying to figure out, because he's just like whispering lies into our ears and whispering lies into our lives. Now, shortly after, now that we have that recap and that spiritual implications there, shortly after that dreadful and embarrassing defeat, because literally Magneto, he just like did his little smoke screen thing, and he has a piece of gear that blocks his Spidey sense, that blocks Spider-Man's Spidey sense. And so hi Mysterio, hi Spider-Man. So he has a smoke roll around him, so Spider-Man can't see anything, so he essentially just punches him a bunch of time and then pushes him off the bridge, and he's like, wow, this sucks, like I look like an idiot in front of the entire the entire universe, and on top of that, now he's the new hero, and I don't even know who I am anymore. But shortly after this dreadful and embarrassing defeat, Spider-Man tracks down Mysterio, who is so consumed with arrogance and pride that he does what every superhero villain does. This part always gets me. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, I don't want you to win, but like, you definitely don't deserve to win now. And he reveals his entire plan to Spidey. He just does it. He's like, I'm gonna win this. He's not gonna come out of this alive. I'm gonna tell you everything. Hi, I'm Quentin Beck, and I did all these things to you. You don't have a split personality. I'm just a bad guy. And it just so happens that via comic book magic, Spider-Man in his super skin-tight suit has a voice recorder. He just has it. This is comics. Yeah. And he's like, well, I just recorded the whole thing. And after that, a fight breaks out. This is the second fight. And this time, Spider-Man comes out victorious. And today, we're going to focus on the strategies that he used to come out on top during that confusion. All right, so I'm just going to give you a recap of all the past weeks, a general recap of all the past weeks. So as many of you know, you were designed for a grand divine purpose. When you step into that purpose, sometimes by God telling you, hey, move from Baltimore to draft, or other times by curiosity, man, I really like playing music. I'll keep pursuing this thing, and I'll see where it goes. Or by burden, where you think, oh man, there's so many youth in this, and so many teens that just need somebody who's a good influence, who they need a brother, they need a friend. I just want to be part of their life and be a good influence. So maybe by divine command, by curiosity, by burden, you might walk into and step into your destiny. And the enemy will attack you. That's biblical. Like when you step into your destiny, you are now stepping against the enemy. When you just live complacently, he's like, whatever, they're just doing their thing. They're just living their life, whatever, who cares? Like they're just gonna die, no one's gonna remember them. They're not even gonna influence one person, like not worried about them. But the second you step into just like trying to influence even just one child, just one person at a retirement home, you just try to change one person's life, now you're in conflict with the enemy and he will attack you because he doesn't want you to do that. He doesn't want you to change lives and to help people. But you can easily defeat him. Fulfilling your grand divine purpose, living a full life and making an impact is not for weaklings. It's not for the faint of heart. Some people complain about villains and the barrage of internal and external and philosophical problems that they make. As you're able to see, Spider-Man was dealing with internal, external, and philosophical problems all in the same issue of 26 pages in a comic book made actually for children, I guess, but it's kind of adult. It's very adult ideas happening. While others find pleasure in confronting villains, bringing them to justice, and freeing the prisoners. And we should aim to be strong in the Lord. We should aim to pursue his mighty power, to work in him through his Spirit. Because he has mighty power for us all. He has mighty power for you. He has mighty power for us to overcome the enemy. And in previous weeks, we talked about Gideon doing that. We've talked about so many different biblical figures doing this exact thing. And then during all of that, during all these attacks, then we might even ask, why is all this happening to your people? God, why are all these things happening to us? Why are these things happening to morally good people, to people who are trying to pursue you? And then the Lord, so this is Judges 6:14. I'm just going on previous passages that we've already talked about. Then the Lord turned to him. He turns to Gideon, who's asking very similar questions. He turns to us when we're asking similar questions. And he says, well, go with the strength I've already given you and rescue Israel from the Mennonites, and because I'm sending you. Go in the strength that I've given you. Go into the juvenile detention centers. Rescue them from their confused ways. Go into the retirement homes. Rescue them from the confused ways. Rescue them from the captor that is the enemy, who's trying to confuse and twist and torment their life. I'm sending you in your power, the power I've already given you, the burdens I've already given you, and the grace I've already given you. So Jesus came to win the battle over darkness by manifesting his light in the world, everywhere and to everyone. And darkness is a word that's synonymous with evil. It's synonymous with villains. It's synonymous with the devil. Like when you see words like darkness, you hear words like darkness. Even in media, sometimes I like to see, all right, are there any spiritual implications here? Is there anything beyond just what I'm seeing here? Like, is there anything I can learn from this spiritually? Because I feel like Christ is all and is in all. So like I feel like I can learn something from just about anything. And when you view things like that, you can start to really develop your spiritual person and really strengthen him. And because you have to stay alert. We have to watch out for our great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. That's 1 Peter 5:8. And we need to become familiar with his schemes so that he does not outsmart us. And then that's 2 Corinthians 2:11. We need to become familiar with these patterns, because he just repeats himself. He repeats himself over and over again. I'm not sure if this is later in my script, but if it's not, I'm just going to go for it right now. If you look at the way that Satan attacks us, it's nothing new. There's no temptation new under the sun. He just keeps throwing regurgitated ideas. He's run out of ideas, but he knows they still work. He's like, hey, it's tried and true. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't recreate the wheel. So the very first thing that he does to us as humans during the fall of man was question our identity. He has us think, well, if you really are made in his image, then shouldn't you be able to know what he knows? Then all of a sudden we eat the fruit and we fall, and it's like, dang it, you got me. And then when you see Jesus come into the scene, as he's reconciling humanity, he asks, well, if you really are the Son of God, if he really, did he say that? Who are? And he comes back and he's like, no. I'm going to repeat exactly what the Father said. I'm going to repeat who he said that I am. And he breaks apart all that identity crisis that could have happened, and probably would have happened to me if Satan would have come against me if I wasn't strong in the Lord in that moment, if I wasn't familiar with his schemes. I would be questioning my identity. I'd be dealing with a split personality, thinking am I really who he says I am? Am I this person? Who am I? And I think a lot of us end up asking that question, who am I? Who have I become? And that's because we've started developing this split personality where we're not strong in the Lord, where we're not focusing on his righteousness. But all that to say, that sounds so oh man, I'm just messing up. No, we've already won. We're children of God. Just remember that. I'm a child of God. And because of that, we've already won. We've already overcome the people in our lives who come against us. And they're not really the problem. It's the spirituality behind that. It's the darkness behind that. That's the problem. And we've already overcome that. Because the Spirit who lives in you is greater than the one who's in the world, who lives in the world. I just want to keep feeding you guys Scripture more than anything else, because my words can only go so far, but the Scripture can penetrate the heart. It's a double-edged sword, and it can just bring us closer to him. All right. So I just want us to focus on these questions throughout this sermon. These three questions are, where is the uncertainty in your life, or where was the uncertainty in your life? Because even if you've already gone through confusion, I want you to focus on thinking about those times, because if you focus on those times, you're like, all right, let me analyze the patterns of the enemy. During that moment, whether I succeeded or I failed, let me analyze those patterns. So where is there or was there uncertainty in your life? What obstacles are in the way of you taking your next step? Whether it's, and start brainstorming, because sometimes it's not as simple as, well, if I just made more money, I'd have no problems. Because sometimes way more problems come with more money. So think brainstorming, really think it out, really draw out these questions, really go beyond just the surface level when you're thinking about these questions for your own life. So where is there uncertainty, or was there uncertainty in your life? What obstacles are in the way of taking your next step? And why has the enemy taken an interest in blurring your vision? Why would he even think about coming after you? What are you doing right already? Because if you have a loving marriage, if you're taking care of your husband or your children or your grandparents or your mother, if you're doing something good for somebody, think, wait, is he attacking this relationship because I'm doing everything right? Sometimes things seem to start falling apart because you're doing things right, not because you're doing anything wrong. Ian and Jesse, they have an amazing marriage. If things start falling apart, I wouldn't be like, man, my buddy Ian, he's been messing up. Been leaving his socks on the floor. He's been playing music too late, not letting her sleep. He's a screw up. He's not. No, I'd be like, man, what are all the things they're doing right? Are they really pursuing a deep relationship with God? Are they pursuing each other more so they can be an example of the relationship of Christ in the church? Are they serving in the church more? Are they starting to go out and give bottles of water to the homeless? Is that what they're doing? Because if they're doing the right things, then that's the only reason why the enemy will have any desire to attack them. There's no reason. You just leave them alone if they weren't doing anything right. So the three questions one more time, just so you can just keep those cycling through your brain. Where is there uncertainty in your life? What obstacles are in the way of you taking your next step? And why has the enemy taken an interest in blurring your vision? All right, so everyone can overcome this villain of confusion by utilizing these next three strategies. And I'm just going to lay them out for you really quickly, so if you want to just take your notes, just have them there. Take a step back. That's the first step. first strategy. The first strategy is just to take a step back. The second strategy is to take action. So after you take a step back, take action. And then the last strategy is to then take courage. So take a step back, take action, and then take courage. Boom. I actually just made up those little actions in that moment. I feel like a superhero. I feel like I was like in the comic in that moment. All right. The first thing Mysterio did in the battle was to create a fog. That's his go-to trick. Like, again, the enemy's not trying new things. Like, if he knows that he can get you with a cigarette addiction, he's not going to be like, all right. Wait. It's okay. So, fun fact right now, guys, our media team is killing it because they had like pretty much do everything from scratch this morning. They're amazing on it. We honestly have a great church with great teams, and I'm so glad that we have all of those things in place that allow us to just bring such great content to everybody every week. So the first thing that Mysterio did, here I was saying. So if your thing, your hang up is cigarettes, he's not gonna be like, all right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start throwing meth at this man. Like, I'm sure meth is gonna get him this time. He's not gonna switch it up. He's like, he already knows what works on you. He's gonna use the thing that's been tripping you up time and time again throughout your life, over and over again. And Mysterio, that's exactly what he did. He knew that the first round, that first try, he got Spider-Man with the fog. So he's like, boom, fog time, let's go. And he put that fog around himself. He turned on that little thing that allowed him to block out the Spidey sense. And now he's like, Spider-Man's defenseless one more time. I'm gonna get this man. I'm gonna get him. He's done. He's done. But while in the fog, he was seemingly getting hit from every angle. Like in the comic, he kind of like a fist coming out of the clouds. He's like, ugh. And Spider-Man's like, oh no, I'm dying. This is horrible. And what does Spider-Man do? A cool backflip. He's just like, I almost did the backflip. Fun fact, I don't actually know how to backflip. I look like a guy who should be able to do backflips. Like, you look at me, you're like, I bet he does backflips. I bet he like gets up on chairs and like does like one of those kicking backflips or like the spinning backflips or the really cool like parkour backflips from 10 years ago, back when parkour was cool. And so I was talking with my buddy Peyton. I'm not sure if you guys all know Peyton. He plays soccer and football and all that. And we're like, we need to learn backflips this year. Like, this summer is the summer that we both don't break our necks and learn how to do backflips. And I want to be like Spider-Man and learn how to backflip. I just want to be a cool guy. I want to be a nerd and a cool guy at the same time. It's an internal struggle, but I really want to be both. But the enemy, he never wants you to see the bigger picture. So when Spider-Man backflips out of that, he's able to now see, oh, the fog that was around me, it's not everything. It's not the entire picture. It's not everything this isn't consuming me anymore. I can see beyond just the fog. And now I can see the fog for what it is. No matter how big the fog is, it might take 2 or 3 backflips to really take a step back and really think, oh, okay, all right. All right, and you're just like, you're studying it. You're thinking, and then you can really start to act in it. So it's important for us to really assess our lives and see exactly where we are in our venture, walk, journey. People, especially these days, are getting like weird spiritual, and they're like, I'm just on like this journey, man. I'm taking this journey to a new place in like my spirituality. Like, I'm not talking about like some weird stuff. I'm talking about like you're walking out this thing called faith, and you have to take a step back and like really assess the adventure, really assess who you want to be and who God has made you to be and how the enemy's attacking you, to really just take it all in. So we need to ask God what the best options are. And if we're truly pursuing him, or if we're just pursuing our own desires, ask if our desires are in line with his. So even that's a huge idea right there. Like actually talking to God, actually praying, actually saying, do I want to be an NFL star because I like football, or is that something that God really wants to use in my life? And I think it's important. I think it's important to really think about those things and then align our desires with God. I had to deal with this a few times. I'm just going to give you a couple stories. As again, you guys I feel like sometimes I don't talk about myself enough. Even with people that I've talked to time and time again, like Mary, I feel like I've talked to you about really heavy stuff. We've talked about our lives and our childhoods together. But sometimes I sit back and I'm like, I just want to listen. I'm an introvert. I just want to hear what you have to say. I want to ask questions so that I don't have to say anything about myself and I can just chill. But when I was 19, I had this opportunity, because pretty much all I did with my high school and teenage years was play music. That's all I did. I just wanted to pursue music. And I got to this crossroad where I literally had 2 weeks to decide whether I was going to move to Chicago and work with the Chicago Dream Center and serve with their leadership team, or go to California and record an album and like tour with people. Like literally, it's like, so I had to fast for a weekend, and then I woke up and God's like, Chicago. And even in those moments, like, you still have a choice. Like, even when God says this specific thing, you still have a choice. In that fork in the road, you have a decision. Thankfully, I chose Chicago, because I feel like I grew so much more as a man and as a man of God. But I could have chosen music, and you probably wouldn't see me here today. I probably wouldn't even know how to speak on this topic. And then fast forward 4 years later, after I'd done so many different things around the country with different cities and all of that, I had to choose Stuart Shaft over Detroit. Because again, I had an option. God always, he's not a man to be like, you're doing this, you're going to do this right now. He's like, hey, I want to present to you an amazing life, a life of fullness and joy and adventure. I want to give you that. And I was like, Detroit sounds really, really fun. And like their housing market right now is so cheap, or especially back then. Back then, I think you could get like a townhouse for like 5 to 10 grand, like a nice one. And just kind of fix. Oh, it was prime. And I was like, all right, God, I just want to do this draft. I'm going to hang out with new people. It's going to be amazing. And I'm so glad I did. And then even this year, I had to choose whether I was going to stay or leave, because I applied for a really dope job in Maryland where I was just going to play music for preschoolers and get paid like $20-25 an hour to play music with children. Like, what? And they were asking me for videos and stuff. But then I was like, wait, God, should I move to Maryland or should I stay? And a lot of you guys don't even know that about, because this happened like probably 4 or 5 months ago. And I was sitting up there, actually where Ronnie B is, and I prayed to God. I'm like, God, should I move to Maryland? I didn't even ask you. I just saw the opportunity and I shot for it so hard. I didn't even sit back and think, should I do this? And he was straightforward, and it was kind of funny. He's like, no. Okay, I don't know what to do with life anymore, God. Now what? But the thing is, I've grown so much even after that. Like I just started pursuing him that much harder, because in those moments, just for that split little time of you're not really knowing what's going on, there's that confusion. I just pursued God a little bit harder in those moments, and I grew way more than I would if I would have just did my own thing every single time. The next strategy that Spider-Man took is they took action. Oh, dope. Man, you guys are amazing, and I love you. Thanks, Tyler. So, in the story, you see Spider-Man, and he's in the battle with Mysterio. After he does the backflip out, and he's like, all right, if I just keep swinging, then at some point, I'm either going to knock out the fog or I'm going to hit him. He's just going around the fog, just like, ah. And at some point, he hits him, and he hits him good. Like, it's a good Spider-Man punch. And you see Mysterio fly out of the fog like one of those. And if he were to spend too much time mulling over all the options, like, okay, he's already embarrassed me one time. I can't. All right, I don't know what to do. Okay, what if I punch that aside? If he's not there, then it's gonna be a waste of energy. He didn't mull over. He just started acting. He just started taking action. And you can't if you don't take action, then you're probably gonna end up overthinking and scaring yourself out of action altogether. I suffer with this thing that I learned about called analysis paralysis. And it's because I always overthink. I think about everything. I can't stop thinking. It's always rolling and rolling and rolling. It's like this nonstop flow of information. My mom, she actually jokingly got me a statuette of the Thinker, Rodin's Thinker, that one, my senior year of high school, because she's like, he just doesn't stop thinking. It's borderline annoying. And it takes me forever to make a decision. It takes me forever to choose whether I want Sprite or Dr. Pepper with my chicken nuggets. It's a lot. It's a huge, because if you want to get the sweet and sour sauce or the barbecue sauce, it tastes different together. It's a different dynamic depending on the soda. And then sometimes you just want water because you're like, man, I actually don't want too much sauce. I'm going to just ketchup and there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on in that situation. And, but don't just be, I'll just bring it back to the spiritual side. I don't want to get too, I love chicken nuggets so much, guys. I really do. It's incredibly unhealthy. But don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you're fooling yourself. That's James 1:22. If you just sit back and you're like, all right, just taking it in. I did my backflip. Assessing situation. I'm just going to lean back. My mind, my money. Sorry. You just sit back. You're just looking at it all. And if you do that too long, you're fooling yourself. You're just listening. You're just consuming, but never doing, never putting that consumption into work. If you just continue to eat and eat and eat and never burn those calories, like Jessie riding her bike from her house out in like Dooms to church, like that must have burnt like 3 days worth of calories. If you don't refill that, then you can't do it again. But on top of that, if you just keep refilling and never putting it out and never utilizing that energy, then you end up storing it. You end up in like, what's that one TV show, like My 600-Pound Life or something like that? That's what you end up becoming. And you can become that spiritually, where you're just consuming, and you're like, this is just nice. I just like thinking about Jesus. Like, I'm just kind of stuck on my bed, stuck in my chair, just thinking about him. He's a cool guy. He's nice. Someone's like, hey, man, who's Jesus? Shut up. Who are you? Let me learn about Jesus more. I'm still reading. You can become that person spiritually, and you have to take action, even if it's just little action, just to get yourself, because like sometimes when you're stuck in a 600-pound life, it just takes that first little nudge up when you're a little walker, and you're like, just burn 3 calories, all right. You take a sit down. All right, I gave that homeless child socks. That was, burned a couple, all right. Then you start getting momentum, and it starts becoming more habitual. And you become that fit person, and you become John Hickenbotham. And it's insane. You're like, look at me now. In my 50s, just like rocking it. Look at my, oh, but even when the plan is scary, courage is doing what's right, doing the right thing, what God is asking you to do through that fear. And then you have the story of Joshua. Have I not commanded you, be strong, be courageous, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. I'm not sure. I'm just going to take a quick poll. Who all here just knows anything about Joshua? Any guys know it? Boom. Just raise your hands, like, because I want to really know before I just go on and start talking about, rambling about this guy. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick historical Torah information. So Genesis happens, boom, boom, all these things happen. Then you have the nation of Israel that's being guided by this guy named Moses. Let my people go guy. He gets them out of Egypt. And now they're wandering around the desert. They wander in the desert for 40 years because 10 out of 12 people were like, no, man, we can never do this. They're so scary. All the giants in the promised land, we can't overtake them. Our God isn't big enough. And God's like, bet. All right, well, you don't think I can. So you get to just wander around and die in the next 40 years. Joshua and Caleb were the two people who said, actually, our God's big enough. He can do this. He's strong enough. And God's like, you guys are cool. I'll let you see it. I'll let you go into this. And now Moses, he dies off. And Joshua, in that Joshua 1:9 verse, he's now stepping into leadership over hundreds of thousands of people. He went from just being like, oh yeah, I'm just like Moses' sidekick, just hanging out and just like doing my thing and just learning and seeing him do some cool stuff, to now, oh, you oversee a nation. You are now stepping into a really hefty role. It's a lot more than just like, yeah, man, I just became the manager of Burger King. Not downplay that, because it'd be kind of cool to be a manager of Burger King, because the chicken nuggets. I'm sorry, I keep going back to it. I would get so many chicken nuggets if I worked in Burger King. Okay. But no, he's overseeing an entire nation now. And now he has to lead them to a place that he hasn't even been in for 40 years. Like, he wandered with them for 40 years. Now he has to go and lead them back into this place that he hasn't been for 40 years. So now there's fear, doubt, insecurity that are coming at him, and God's like, no. Have I not commanded you? Be strong, be courageous. Don't fear the giants in the land. I'm bigger than all of them. You remember saying that. Do you remember? So either the fog will dissipate or you'll finally hit something. Even when you miss, you haven't failed, but simply found a few thousand other ways that didn't work. My man back there. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work yet. That's Thomas Edison. I think he's a pretty solid dude. He has a lot of patents. He did a lot of great things for the world, like the light bulb. And he was just always just like, he's swinging, he was taking action. He took in so much knowledge. Obviously, he was a genius. But then he took that action, because that genius doesn't mean anything until you prove something with it, until you've done something with it. And this isn't giving you guys a right for everyone to go around and just start sinning, like, oh, I was just taking shots, man. Just going for it. It's great. Like, no, it's not all right. Just keep sinning and just to do whatever you want. But this is giving you an opportunity to put your faith into action, to see heaven on earth, like Jesus was talking about, to see greater things than you can even imagine, to do the amazing, to go on this amazing adventure that you get to have with the creator of the universe. Like, that's a hard concept to even conceptualize. Like, the creator of the universe wants you to have an amazing life, to have an adventure. So now it's time to take courage. I like to say, like, shoot your shot. So it's like, time for you to shoot your shot. It's time for you to take courage. Because once you've gotten just a semblance of the next step, it's time for you to go full speed ahead. It's time to go into action and shoot your shot. It's time to go all in for victory. It's time to go in for the kill. It's time to go in for that final, like, Spider-Man punch and just, like, knock out Mysterio and just, like, do big things. So I'm just going to go. Actually, good job, Hashim. I was like, crap, I have to find this in this, like, new Bible. So I left my Bible in my car earlier, and Jessie was really nice to me, and she brought me a Bible. So thanks, Jessie. Actually, I might be able to find it really quickly. So Judges 7:10 through 15. So I prefer reading out of a hard Bible. I look young, but I just love little old school things like reading out of a hard Bible, like hardback Bible. Like, it just feels good. And then you can, like, highlight it with a real highlighter. Number, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, right there. And that's Judges 7:10 through 15. So if you have a hard Bible, then like a hardback paper Bible, you just get a couple extra brownie points from me, just immediately. So if you want that, you can have it, but if you don't want it, then I'll eat all the brownies myself. All right, so 10. But if you are afraid to attack, go down. So there's this guy named Gideon that Chuck's been talking about a lot throughout this series. And he's now has to go attack the Midianites. He has to now take down his enemy. And he's afraid. He's like, but if you're afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant, Shura. Listen to what the Midianites are saying, and you will be greatly encouraged. Then you will be eager to attack. So Gideon took Purah and went down to the edge of the enemy camp. The armies of the Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east had settled in the valley like a swarm of locusts. Their camels were like grains of sand and on the seashore. So they had tons and tons of people in a huge army, too many to count. Gideon crept up just as a man was telling his companion about a dream that he had. The man said, I had this dream. And in my dream, a loaf of barley bread came tumbling down in the Midianite camp. It hit a tent, turned it over, and knocked it flat. His companion answered, oh, your dream can mean only one thing. God has given Gideon, son of Joash, wow, hard words. God has given Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite, victory over the Midians and all its allies. When Gideon heard this, he's like, yeah. When he heard this dream and its interpretation, he bowed and worshiped before the Lord, then returned to the Israelite camp and shouted, get up, for the Lord has given you victory over the Midianite hordes. Now that we've taken a step back, we look at the situation. We're not taking action. We're not going in. We're getting this semblance of like, I might be able to do this. It's time to shoot your shot. It's time to go in. It's time to say, get up. It's time to go. It's go time. Like in Transformers. I'm not sure how nerdy you guys get, but you know how in like the old Transformers, it'd be like, Autobots, roll out. I used to love that so much. Because a kid had a deep voice, and I had a deep voice as a kid. So I'd be like, Autobots, roll out. And then maybe still have when you're like, yeah, get him, Optimus Prime. Do this. Let's go. And I personally, because I'm such a thinker, I'm always thinking about all these different options, and I'm very logical. I personally don't like to speak in absolutes. I really don't. But in my life, there has been moments when God spoke to me, and there hasn't been moments in my life where God spoke to me, and it didn't require action of some sort to change or to do something. Whenever God speaks, there's in my life, because I can't speak for everybody, but I truly do believe that I could do this as an absolute, but I just don't like to speak in absolutes. When God speaks, it requires action. And his words have inspired clarity. His words inspire so much clarity. When he told Gideon to go down and listen to the enemy camps, listen to him and say, what are they saying about you? And he's like, all right, cool, I'll listen. I'll take that step. I'll take that step of courage, and I'm going to go down to the edge of the camp and be like, what? Let me listen to God. And, that's what they're saying? Let's go. Now he's inspired. It's inspired clarity. It's inspired him strength and courage to move forward. And I think this is a very important fact about Mysterio. This is a fact that I think the MCU got so wrong. Or they might get it right. But I'm thinking, just from seeing the trailers, I don't think they're going to get it right with this specific Mysterio. But historically, Mysterio isn't known for his brute strength. He's not known for being the guy who can go on a punch fight with anybody. He's known for being the one that Spider-Man gets confused by, and then once Spider-Man gets that first hit, done. Like one punch KO kind of dude. And Mysterio's offense and defense is all based on confusion and illusion. So spiritual implications are when we finally see through the fog and take action in the mighty power of God, the enemy is defenseless. It's nowhere close to a fair fight. It's a one-punch KO kind of situation. And I just want to conclude with this idea. So God wants to give you new eyes, new perspective, his perspective today. He wants to do that for you today. He wants to renew your minds. He wants to renew our minds. He wants to renew my mind to see through the haze of confusion. He wants us to clearly see plans of the enemy so we won't be walking in confusion, but walking in confidence. Be strong, be courageous. I'm with you wherever you go. So by taking a step back, by taking action, and then taking courage, we are refusing to settle for blindness in our lives. So can we just stand up and just pray this out really quickly? God, I just thank you that you're giving us vision, that because without that vision, we would be perishing. We would perish from our lack of sight. God, let us pursue your righteousness. Let's seek your kingdom, because that's where we'll find you. That's where we'll find clarity. You're trustworthy, and you will make our plans straight, and you will be the light and the salvation for our lives, God. So we thank you for all that. We thank you that Jesus is above all things, and that he's always been and always is and always will be, and he's unwavering in his personhood, and he's solid in his foundation for anything. You're amazing, and you're solid, and you're what we should build our lives on. You are the thing we should pursue. You're the one we should pursue for our clarity to defeat the villain of confusion. So God, I thank you for right now starting the process of us defeating this villain, defeating confusion in our life, defeating all the surrounding illusions in our life of what's not even of you, that's not even in yours. So God, let our desires be more like yours. Let our faith become strong, and let us grow in you. And if you want to pray with us, or if you want to talk to us about things that are confusing in your life, there's people up here at the stairs and over there in the corner that are just going to be here for you to talk with you through that confusion. Or if you just want to talk to us about all the amazing things God's done in your life and how he's pushed you through those times of confusion. Honestly, I love hearing great stories as well. So I just want to send you guys out with a blessing. God, thank you for this church. They're amazing, and have a great week, okay?